Hello, my name is Wesley Cragen. I am an American, a patriot, and a conservative. As a patriot, one of my favorite subjects to study is American history. This is because I find American history not only to be interesting and entertaining, but also to be very informative and helpful when it comes to understanding our great country and what makes it so special. It helps us understand where our country came from, who its founders were, how it became so great, and how its identity was ultimately shaped. As I'm sure you know, however, not everyone is as enthusiastic about American history as I am. You've probably seen on the television news or on the internet that many people seem to take offense at American history and have even gone so far as wanting to, for lack of a better term, erase it. Yes, many people in this present generation hold the view that the history of the United States of America is a history of almost entirely negative things: land theft, genocide, slavery, illegal wars, bigotry, and other vices. They view the major historical figures and heroes of this country, such as the Pilgrims or the Founding Fathers, as symbols of these perceived evils. They focus only on the flaws of these figures, teaching all their negative characteristics to children in our schools, painting them as villains in the minds of our youth, and never mentioning anything positive or heroic that these figures did. One example of this is how the Pilgrims, the English religious group that founded the colony of Plymouth, Massachusetts in the year 1620, are portrayed. Teachers and historians now claim that this group was simply a band of invaders from Europe that stole land and murdered its native inhabitants. They do not mention that the Pilgrims, or Puritans as they were also called, were actually under severe persecution from the Church of England at that time, and that they were practically forced to start a new life in North America, that many of them died of starvation and disease during their first years in the New World, and that they are credited in large part for shaping America's reputation as a city on a hill, a place of hope, refuge, freedom, and determination to overcome oppression. A second example would be George Washington. Many people today will not tell our children that George Washington was a great hero of the Revolutionary War, a brave general in the Continental Army that helped lead our country to independence, nor will they tell them that he was a noble and humble first president who set the precedent of term limits by stepping down from office after 2 terms and refusing to take a third. More likely is that they will describe him simply as a white slave owner and nothing else. They will ironically neglect to mention that he would go on to set all of his slaves free in his will after he died. But why? Why are so many people and events in our country's history painted in such a one-sided negative light? Why are people all across the country demanding that statues and monuments to our history and our heroes be demolished? I believe I know the answer. As I said before, I am a conservative politically, and most of the people who hate American history seem to be the opposite of that. They are people with very different politics from my own. If we want to get to the bottom of why these people hate American history so much, we must first explain why conservatives like me love it so much. As a conservative, I don't only love American history because of the beauty and adventure of it, but also because it instills within me a sense of national pride. That's right, a huge part of patriotism is tied to history. Let me say that again. A huge part of patriotism is tied to history. If you don't believe me, ask people from different countries around the world, and they will probably tell you the same thing. People from Russia use heroic stories about World War II, which they often refer to as the Great Patriotic War, to instill a sense of pride in their societal consciousness. The people in South Africa, known as Afrikaners or Boers, derive a great sense of pride from the memory of events like the Second Boer War against the British, and from figures like Paul Kruger, a Boer politician, and Koos de la Rey, a Boer war general. I will say it again. A huge part of national pride is undeniably tied to knowing a country's history and a country's heroes. This is true for me and many other conservatives. We love American history because it's patriotic. So why do others not love it? The answer should be fairly obvious by now. Many people don't like history because they don't like patriotism. I'll repeat that one too. Many people don't like American history because they don't like American patriotism. You see, I believe that left-leaning people know that true, accurate, and unbiased history, if taught, will lead people to develop a love and appreciation for this country. But they don't want people to develop those feelings toward the country. They don't want people to be patriotic. But why wouldn't they want people to be proud of America? The only logical answer is that they don't like America itself. They don't like the principles it was founded on. They don't like the identity it has made for itself. They don't like its economics, its system of government, its laws, or its culture. Essentially, they don't like anything about it, and that is because their politics and their worldviews are so radically different from anything America stands for or was founded upon. I will now expand upon what those values are. In my belief, the U.S. was founded on three basic principles: capitalism, individual freedom, and human equality. Capitalism, as most of you already know, is that economic system in which the means of production is controlled by the people. People can buy and sell, start their own independent businesses, and even own property, including land, without interference from the government. The second principle, individual freedom, is itself a huge part of capitalism, but it is not limited to the realm of economics. Individual freedom can also be applied to other parts of life, such as choosing which college to attend, which career path to follow, and which person to marry. People in the United States can do all these things of their own free will, which is radically different from the way things are in other countries, in which people are pressured to do or not do certain things based on tradition or on familial and societal approval. Finally, there is the principle of human equality, which in American terms means that no one is superior or inferior to anyone else based on income or class. There is no caste system. No one has to bow to anyone else. All of these are values that have evolved out of American history, and all of them are things which many progressives oppose. Progressives in this day and age seem to be more and more openly in support of socialism and communism, economic systems in which a huge government controls all land, money, and resources, without letting the individual have a say in his or her own affairs. Obviously, since these very ideas are completely anathema to American history, those who support them will want to paint American history as evil, while portraying the history of other countries like Russia, China, Cuba, and Venezuela as being good and heroic. This, I believe, is something they do on purpose, in order to push for fundamental change in the United States. You see, I do not believe they will stop criticizing this country and its history until they have reshaped it into what they want it to be. That is all part of their plan. That is why I believe some people want to blow up Mount Rushmore in South Dakota. That is why I believe the name of Mount McKinley, the tallest mountain in North America, was recently changed to Denali. If you change names and erase history, then you can change the country itself from the inside out. Patriots out there watching this video, I encourage you to start studying real American history. Buy books from reputable authors that teach you about this country's incredible journey. Read about Captain John Smith in Jamestown, about Governor William Bradford, the Pilgrims, and the Plymouth Colony. Read about the French and Indian War, the American Revolution, the Founding Fathers. Study the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the Presidents. Learn about the Civil War, the Emancipation Proclamation, our country's great battles in World War I and World War II, and about our heroic generals like Dwight Eisenhower. Learn about how the many events our country has come through have shaped it and made it stronger, and why the story of America is indeed a great and proud story and nothing to be ashamed of. My name is Wesley Cragen.